That's what I'll say. But for me, it comes down to Jonathan Taylor and that JFM injury. It is a big concern for this Broncos defense. Even though they have the depth on the defensive line, even though I appreciate Jordan Jackson, appreciate Awazarike and what they've done, I'm looking forward to Savon Jones getting a jersey and an opportunity to play. That's a guy that can be very disruptive. And in fact, Jones makes me feel a little bit better, and here's why. He's the reason why you're not going to pay JFM. Savon Jones was drafted essentially to be your JFM replacement. We've seen this before. For example, years past, Bradley Roby was drafted to replace Aqib Talib. Spoiler alert, he did not do that. He wasn't good enough to do that. Bradley Roby became a different asset, and he was an asset. He is part of that no-fly zone that people don't talk about enough. He was an important asset. Savon Jones was drafted to essentially replace JFM because their games are so much similar. Now, I think Savion's a little bit more difficult to stop. Like, JFM has a lot of savvy and movement within his strength. Savon is like a Tasmanian devil. It's just strength upon strength. You can't stop. There's no way to stop this kid. He didn't get a jersey last week because you have Awazarike, you have Jordan Jackson, you've got plenty of defensive linemen. So if you're down JFM, it's a huge concern because Jonathan Taylor is a superstar running back. No question, no doubt. But you've got a nice rotation of defensive linemen. And I've got the key to I need to have a beer with Vance Joseph sometime. Yeah. Not just the press conference thing. We do the little fist bump or whatever. What's up, VJ?
Bring him a beer today. See what he does.
Just walk in. One. Patrick's like, what the hell are you doing? I'm just bringing VJ. We're having beers. Yeah. I would have one. He'd have one. But the thing is, I know how to beat Daniel Jones. It's pretty easy. You know how it is?
Just get after him all day?
No, it's the opposite. You just play him straight up.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're dropping more than you're bringing.
Exactly. You rush 4. Math. You drop 7. And you just play him straight up. You make Daniel Jones his worst enemy because he's his worst enemy. He's an awful quarterback. You don't want to make him look like, what he do against the Dolphins and he's Danny Dimes. And we appreciate Pat McAfee. He's your buddy. He loves your hair.
Yeah.
He may not love it now because your haircut.
I don't know if we're friends anymore that I don't have the hair.
I know, exactly. Got to get the hair back. But, Pat McAfee's playing all this, and I know it's his shtick or whatever, but, stop playing Colts highlights. They're not going anywhere.
He's all in on the Colts.
Okay, yeah, they are not a contender. They're not a real championship team. They're not even a playoff team. So go out there, prove it this week. But with Daniel Jones, you don't rush him and create an opportunity for him to kill you as a runner. You don't want that. You don't want him to out-crush you as a runner because he can still do that. So if you play him straight up and make him his own worst enemy, you're still going to get pressure, but his internal pressure is perhaps even greater than the pressure that you can bring. Mm-hmm. So play him straight up and make sure you're stuffing the run. Number one priority with JFM, without JFM. Savon Jones gets a jersey, Savon Jones inactive. You've got to make sure you stuff the run this week.
Well, you know what? You said something there that made me think about. I like your idea. You bring 4, you trust your horses up front, you drop 7, and you let those guys on the back end go to work. That's a luxury the Broncos could have if they're playing with a touchdown 10-point lead, 7 to 10-point lead. Because you're talking about Jonathan Taylor not being a threat at that point. Or, I don't want to speak for you, do you trust those 4 guys up front to still make enough noise, stopping Jonathan Taylor if the game's tight? Because that's what would make me a little bit nervous, is not having a Singleton. Like I always say, playing on your toes rather than your heels. You're anticipating a run more than you are a pass. I think that's what the Colts are going to look to do, at least establish that a lot early on. And if you're reliant or just almost giving them the luxury of you're going to have to beat us with him, then all of a sudden we're looking up at halftime and Jonathan Taylor's got 80 yards rushing.
I'm not going to get too X's and O's here, but there's a funnel technique you could use where it's okay, we're going to have 4. We stack the line to stuff the run. Okay, that's fine. That's an avenue. But you also can funnel Taylor where you want him to go and just make sure your tacklers are there.
Okay.
So it's a 2-yard gain instead of stack the line to stuff the run, because here's what happens. Here's the danger. And Taylor did this last year. Taylor will do it again this year. Maybe this is what I asked VJ today. What lessons can you take from the way Jonathan Taylor performed against you last year to this year, Coach? Because here's what they did. You remember what they did? Here's what they did. Stack the line. Once he's past that, what happens if you have 8 defenders in the box. What happens if that superstar running back happens to get past that first wave? Tell me what happens.
He's gone.
Yeah.
Fastest kid alive.
Can't stop it. That's what happened last year. So do I want a repeat of last year? I mean, I want a Broncos win again, but I don't want a repeat of Jonathan Taylor's gashing you because you're stacking the line, you're stuffing the run, and they are gashing you up front. And he is just running away from you because he gets by your first wave, and then you've got no answer. And then you have safeties with bad angles. Play him straight up, rush 4, and funnel Taylor where you want him to go, and make Jones his own worst enemy. Get in Daniel Jones' head yet. That's what you should be doing. Make sure that mentally he's expecting you look at, and maybe Hufanga like comes down or something, and then Jones is like, he changes protection, and then Hufanga backs up as the ball is snapped.
Yeah.
There's ways to mess with Jones' head while also funnel technique for Jonathan Taylor. Get him where you want him to go. Just make sure your tacklers are there and they're sound. Like Alex Singleton. Put Alex Singleton in play.
Sure, trust
Let him
yeah.
fill the hole. Let him be your funnel point.
Well, to your point of what it was a year ago, before Jonathan Taylor ruined the game for his own team, 22 carries, 107 yards, 4.8 yards per carry, didn't find the back of the end zone, but it was a issue slowing him down a year ago. And they also didn't have, what week was that? They still had Alex Singleton at that point, didn't they?
No, he was gone after the, Buccaneers game? Because we were
right,
preparing for the Jets.
trip.
We were out
Yeah,
in West
yeah, that's
Virginia.
what it was. So,
It's
yeah,
a
he wasn't
downpour, and Alex Singleton's in a brace.
I want Jonathan Taylor. I think you said this earlier. He's the focal point.
Yeah.
You take him out of the game.
Yep.
And as dangerous as I think Tyler Warren can be, I'm so glad the Broncos are getting the Colts and Tyler Warren in week 2 of his NFL season, because that dude's going to be a real threat and a problem moving forward for defensive coordinators.
Yes.
But right now, he's still kind of figuring out who he is, and Daniel Jones figuring out who he is this version of. Take Jonathan Taylor out of that game. I'm a little hesitant of trusting just an Alex Singleton in the one-on-ones. I would stack the box a little bit more until you do have a 7-10 point lead, and then VJ can get a little bit more creative and trust guys on the outside a little bit more.
Yeah. I think the Broncos have a plan in place that is number one paramount: stuff or slow down Jonathan Taylor. Then you got to double team Tyler Warren. And yeah, if Alec Pierce gets you, then whatever. You know, if Donnie Mitchell gets you on a play, like whatever, dude, that's going to happen. It's football. It's not going to be a perfect game. You know, whereas a month ago I thought, man, you might shut out the Titans. No, that changed because your offense isn't where it needs to be yet. In week 2, I'm not sure they're there either, based on what we observed in week 1.
Yeah.
So, like, defense needs to lead the way. And as weird as it may seem, Mace talked about this yesterday on OBT. As weird as it may seem, there's going to be a day, and we can pick the day because I'm pretty sure it's week 4, where it's the offense that bails you out. There's going to be some day, or maybe multiple games, on this schedule where, man, the defense, they just, oh, man, and Surtain dropped that one pick, and, Nick Bonito, he was almost there with the sack, but then he got the pass off, and it was a touchdown, and you're going to have those days.
Yep.
There's going to be days where Zach Allen, Nick Bonito, Jonathan Cooper, they turn to Bo Nix and they go, you got this one. There's going to be days like, it's not week 2. This offense is not ready. Week 2. It's still preseason, mainly, across the league. What did we learn in week 1? The Dolphins stink, right?
Yeah.
And the Broncos are a work in progress offensively. So defense carries them now. There's going to be a game or two where the offense needs to carry him, and they need to be ready for that.
Well, we talk so much about run-pass balance. That's football team balance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your defense is better right now. I don't know that the offense is going to match that production. I think the defense can be the number one defense throughout the course of this season.
Sure.
This offense got a long ways to go before I'm comfortable being like, you know what, Cease, I think this offense can be number one in the NFL. There's a lot of work to be done there, but they'll be better, and that gap will close between the two sides.
Yeah, and you need to see J.K. Dobbins and Evan Ingram pay off for this offense. Yeah. That's the thing. Dre Greenlaw can be an all-pro when he's healthy. Spoiler alert, he's not healthy. Talanoa Hufanga is an all-pro, and we saw it in week 1.
He's all
what
over
a
the field.
difference maker. But I can also say similarly, not in a star-studded way, J.K. Dobbins was real solid. J.K. Dobbins, and it's not just the, throw a starving man a cracker and be like, what's the best cracker I ever had? What is that, a Ritz? No, it's a saltine. Like, J.K. Dobbins is better than Javonte Williams. Don't at me, bro. But he's so solid. Like, that's exactly what this team needed. If you had a Jonathan Taylor, that'd be great. Hi, it's the Denver Broncos. It's Sean Payton. Maybe Sean wouldn't use him. Jonathan Taylor, what? I got that second back we need to use. Yeah. Let's get Jaleel on the field. But if you have that super stud running back, that's awesome. But if you just have a rock-solid back like J.K. Dobbins who can do everything, you don't sweat at all, he's not out there fumbling, rumbling, bumbling, stumbling, like none of that. I think Dobbins' game was kind of overlooked last week just because the rest of the offense was poor. Sutton was good. Franklin was good. JK and RJ were good.
Well, I would say my push, it's not even really pushback. I would say that RJ Harvey 50-yard run, it's the highlight of what the running game was.
Yeah.
Even though JK had a hell of a touchdown run, it just wasn't, it didn't pop the way that did.
Right. And for the backfield, I guess what I'm saying is I don't need it to pop. I need the lunch pail. You and I are both blue-collar guys. A lot of people out in the tribe are blue-collar people. We appreciate you. We love you. And, we got that lunch pail right there with you, man.
But you know what? That lunch pail mindset and approach to running the football leads to big popping plays in the third and fourth quarter of games.
Right.
That's why we were so frustrated on Monday. Like, yeah, it's right. It's okay if it's 2 or 3 yards for the first 30 minutes of the game. That turns into 6, 7, or a 50-yard scamper when you get there in the third and fourth quarter. That's why I was so frustrated on Monday, man. That it doesn't have to. You don't have to win gold every time you run the football.
Right.
It's okay to fail a couple of times because you are playing the long game. That's where my real frustration came with Sean. It still doesn't feel like he understands the long game of a 60-minute football game.
The last second-year quarterback to win a Super Bowl was Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
And who was running the ball?
Marshawn.
Is he blue-collar or what?
Hell yeah, he is.
And he's blue-collar because he drinks on the job. Man alive, them construction guys I used to work with, they could drink. Them Wisconsin guys saying oofty, throwing hammers at me.
Did you just hear Marshawn trying to pronounce Shea Gilgeous-Alexander? It was so good, dude. It was so good.
Marshawn's the best. And then when Peyton Manning, Kevin, don't get mad here. Please, get as offended as you like. But when Peyton was like perplexed that Marshawn was drinking what, Hennessy? Yeah. And then remember Peyton was interviewing Marshawn. He's like, "Where'd you get that liquor from?" And Marshawn's like, "My locker."
He said it was in my backpack.
Do you think Peyton had a little regret of like, you mean I could have taken some Hennessy before a game?
You don't think old Peyton had a little sip of Bud Light or anything before?
He might have, after the game, right?
Okay,
He had the Bud Light, the crack in the Bud Light. Yeah, okay. But yeah, I thought it was funny when Peyton's like, "Where'd you keep that?" My locker.
Might have given Peyton some extra speed getting out of the pocket.
Yeah. Anytime a guy's saying like this kind of stuff.
Run through a face, then you don't have to worry about him no more.
That's what I want, Sean Payton. And in fact, instead of run it, I want him to have run through a blankety-blanket's face.
Through a face, then you don't have to worry about him no
can
more.
Sean Payton write that on his play sheet? Then the camera wouldn't zoom in.
Yeah.
See, there's the key, because Sean was all offended. He was all
some swear words.
He was Polly Prissy Pants about it, where he's like, "They're zooming in on my play sheet." Well, put some cuss words on it, and national TV's not going to zoom in on that, Sean.
That's good. I want to hear this from Sean. When it comes to his quarterback play, from Bo, what are you looking for? Perfection, precision? How's Sean answer that?
The perfection comes from the precision. And so when a game ends and you evaluate it, and then you say, all right, how are we with the details? We're fairly young. And so if we feel like the answer isn't maybe up to what we want, then we've got to look at how much, not just cut back, but evaluate. And we're always trying to evaluate what do they do best. But I don't know how many games I've called, but that's one of those where, I came away from it like, man, I've got to be a lot better. And, it was one of those games, especially early. And so in that self-check, in that process, the day after, if you will, if you're not careful, sometimes the game can be over and you're on to the next opponent and you haven't really, you've heard me use that term, debriefed properly. And we're really trying to pay attention to that so that regardless of the outcome, this accelerated curve that everyone's on, where everyone's in a race here these first 4 weeks, and we've got to be leading the way. And so in all areas.
And again, I do like that he's talking about taking some of the blame, falling on a little bit of that sort. And really what I take away from that answer is it does sound like he understands a little bit of like, this can set this up. This can help Bo set this up moving forward. But I'm still going to be, a little reserved on how I feel about Sean Payton, because I also heard him say that multiple times a year ago. And here we are in his third year having the same conversation.
Yeah, we can do the old heard that before, said that before. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. I'm done. Listen, we don't do the lazy radio thing of playing the entire press conference during our show and get as offended as you like when Sean Payton talks for 37 minutes. Mm-hmm. But we take what he says, the best of what he says. That's it, dude. I'm done. I don't need to hear play. Call a good game. Be better. I like the fact that he's falling on the sword, but I don't need that like, oh, here I'm falling on the sword again. You know what I don't want to hear? Sunday? Yeah, I need to call a better game. Yeah, we probably could have ran the ball a little bit more. He's fallen on the sword once. Bo fell on the sword a little bit. Stop doing that. Mm-hmm. Stop. Play better. Call a better game. Execute better as a passer. And let's go, man. You don't have the luxury. One, you're on everybody's radar right now. You're never going to sneak up on anybody.
He did that.
And instead of having like a ramp up of 4 weeks and then week 5, now Bo's getting it, you've got a 2-week on ramp. And the Colts are not a gimme game. The Titans, what did Zach Bye say before the start of the season? Like, the Tennessee Titans may be the most winnable home game of the entire. Okay, you barely won that thing. I know it was 2012. Don't at me, bro, whatever. But, like, you should have clown hammered the Titans, and you didn't because your quarterback was turning the ball over left and right. I'm done, man.
And there was no run game.
You don't have the luxury to kind of wait on this thing. You've got a couple of weeks. This is your second week. We're expecting improvement. If you're going to say Super Bowl, and if the capability is there to win 11, 12, or even 13 games, as I've predicted, you've got to look better starting now.
It's got to be done this weekend. Has to be done this weekend. One of our buddies, an old NFL buddy, just texted me. Said Kubiak used to make us do correction walkthroughs on Monday morning when we didn't play well on Sunday.
I like that.
You think Sean did any of that on Monday?
I'm not sure.
He did say we're not going to just turn this. He said we're going to spend the first 4 or 5 hours today going back on what we did wrong. I kind of like that. Maybe it is a correction walkthrough. I would love to hear a little bit more about that.
We haven't talked about it much yet, but both Court and Bo, and I think even Sean talked about it yesterday, of like they didn't spend much time on that last play because Court was more wide open. Mm-hmm. So even Court's like, yeah, I mean, we talked about it, but we didn't dwell on it. And I do like that. Don't dwell on this. Fix your mistakes. Be better. Mm-hmm. Period.
Yeah, when I do something stupid, I don't bring it up either. So it's a good move from Sean Payton.
You don't go back to your lady and say, hey, remember when I messed up that one time? You want to talk about it some more?
I don't do that.
Yeah, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. When you mess up, just put it in the past.
So you want Bo to be better. I want Bo to be better. The offense has to look better than it did in week 1. And the Colts are having problems in one specific area that might just lead to a whole lot of better for Bo in the offense. We'll tell you what it is next.
Denver is headed